Welcome to Enots Engineering. I'm Alan. Today I want to make a mandrel that holds a polishing mop. Now I know you can get them to fit the end of a bench grinder, but this doesn't give me enough clearance from the motor housing on the grinder, so I'm going to make one that fits in the lathe. This is a job I have, a big tray. This came back from Egypt just after the Second World War, when my uncle was serving in Egypt, and it's been in various locations and various houses. It was found on the top of a water tank in my uncle's house. It was just used to cover a water tank, and I thought it's a shame to let it deteriorate. So what I want to do is make a polishing mop mandrel for the lathe so I can then polish the tray. So let's go into the workshop, see how we do it. I have this 6-inch polishing mop, and I want to use it to polish some brass that I have. What I'm going to do today is make an arbor to hold the polishing mop in the lathe. I know you can get arbors to hold the polishing mop on a bench grinder, but the problem with that is the bench grinder is in the way of the piece of brass that I want to polish. So the arbor needs to be a tapered thread from about 5mm up to about 15mm. So this wheel will screw on, and then I can hold it in the lathe and polish the brass. This is the bench grinder, and as you can see, if I put the wheel on the end of this spindle, I'd have to remove the guards, remove the wheel, put the adapter on, put this polishing mop on, and I think the top of this motor would still be in the way because I have a big sheet of brass I want to polish up. Now this is my bench grinder, and when it's not used it's underneath the tool and cutter grinder, and to do that all I do is take the leg from underneath, let it go down, push it up, and it holds underneath the bench. I'm going to store the leg at the side so it's out the way. Tool and cutter grinders on the top and the bench grinders underneath. Now the first thing I want to do is take the piece of steel I'm going to use, which is a steel rod about 20mm diameter, 12 inches long. Just put that in the chuck. First thing I need to do is to face this off, centre drill this end. And now I'll do the same on the other end of the bar. I've taken my 3-jaw chuck off, replaced it with this drive plate. Just clean the taper. And I'll put a centre in there. Just tap that in. So that will hold the one end of my bar. And on the other end I've just put a revolving centre. And on the bar I've put a carrier. She's just held on with this screw. And this V goes over the peg on the drive plate. And then the other end goes into the centre in the tailstock. So that's held between centres. The other advantage of this, because I wanted to cut a tapered screw thread, I'll be able to remove it from the lathe and put it back in the carrier in exactly the same position each time, so I can test the thread. So what I want to do now is turn this end here about 2 inches, 2 to 3 inches long, a taper from 5mm up to about 15mm. And to do that I'll offset the tailstock. Now on the back of the tailstock there's a mark which indicates a 0 position, and by undoing this grub screw here and one on the other side, I can move the tailstock so it will turn a taper on the bar. To do this I'll tighten this one up and unslacken the one off at the back. So I'll slacken the one off from the back and tighten this one up. You can see it's pulling the tailstock over. And when you do this, release the tailstock clamp, otherwise you're trying to move it with the clamp on. So I'll put the clamp back on. We'll turn some of the bar and see what type of taper we have. Now I've adjusted the tailstock to give you the taper that I need. There you can see the offset, the zeros there. The next job is to change the tool and replace that with a thread cutting tool. I've set my thread cutting tool up and I've machined a small V there where I want this thread to start. I don't want to come down too far to the tailstock because this is a cone inside and I could end up cutting a thread into the cone and cutting some of this off. So I'm starting the thread there and I will travel along the bar till about 5mm from the end. And I'm cutting a pitch of 1.75mm per revolution. Stop it there. Some oil on the bar. Engage the thread indicator when it just reaches A, and that synchronises the thread to the right position. disengage it, move it back to the beginning. Let's try that on the mop. Okay, that's the thread. I've not put a sharp point on the peaks of the thread. It's not really needed. So here's the polishing mop. There's a spindle we made. That should screw in there. Should go about halfway. That's tight. I have enough thread here to tighten it up further if needed. And that will hold it on the shaft. So let's set the lathe up for polishing. Here's the lathe set up. This side the tailstock's holding the centre which supports the end of the spindle. The polishing mop's fixed on the new arbor or spindle. And on the chock side it's just held in a collet. So I have some blue polishing compound. You get different coloured compounds to polish different materials. Slot the wheel off, put some compound on. This will take me a few hours to do, so speed it up a bit more than that. Now that finish has taken about 30 minutes to achieve. I think I've got a few hours work here, so I'll come back when I've finished. I don't want to make it that shiny that everything's taken off. I'll leave some of the marks on it so you can see it's old. Oh well, that's it for today. Thanks for watching. Hope that was useful. Hope you enjoyed it, and we'll see you next time on Enots Engineering.